Deep breath, everybody. It's time to get to the chapter. Welcome to ACCA Management Accounting. Today I'm going to talk about the accounting for labor. I'm going to hammer it very well so that in the exam you earn good marks. What do we have on accounting for labor? We have the labor turnover concept, we have the overtime, differential piecework, time saved, ratios, etc. Right, let's start. We have the labor turnover. We are measuring the rate at which employees leave the organization, the rate at which they will leave. So, but what I want you to understand is, for example, 50 employees left the company. Then the company wants to replace employees. Then they say 50 have left, yes, but the number of people that we need, we only need 30 employees. So 50 have left, but you want to replace 30 only. So that means they are not worried about the extra 20. So that means the labor turnover was 30, not the 50 who left. So the labor turnover is about the number of people you have decided to replace. So this will be the formula: replacements over average number of employees multiply by 100. So this is the formula. So if you're given a question and they say 50 employees left the organization and 30 were replaced, so that means you are given the replacements. You use the 30 divided by the average number of employees. How do you get the number of employees? We say those who were there at the beginning plus those who were there at the end. Then you divide by what? By 2. So beginning plus the end. Then you divide by 2, you get the average number of employees. So we are saying the replacements, if I am given the number of employees who have left only, don't assume that they replace those people. For example, if they say 60 employees left the organization and they won't say they were replaced, don't use an assumption that they replaced those 60 employees. It means you are not given the number of replacements. In that case, you have to calculate the replacements first. Let me show you this example now. Let's say those at the beginning, for argument's sake, let's say at the beginning we had 100 people. Then less those who left. If people leave the organization, it means the number is reduced. So that's why we are deducting. So you less those who left the organization. So if 20 left, it means we are expecting that the employees are now 8. But you read the question and they will say those at the end, they are now 95. If those at the end are now 95, pure common sense here, it means they replaced some employees. Because they had 100 at the beginning, then 20 left. Pure common sense, where 80 employees are the number of employees we are expecting that are still working for the company. But if they are saying the total number of employees who are still working with the company is 95, it means they replaced some of the employees. So in this case, the replacements, that's what, 15. So that's the replacements. So now applying my formula, the labor turnover, in this case, the labor turnover here, the replacement is what? The replacement, I said, is 15 over the average number of employees. Those at the beginning, we have 100. Those at the end, we have 195. So if you want the average, you say 100 plus 95 divided by 2. Then you multiply with 100. So if you do the number crunching exercise, your replacement is 15 over. If you sum up these two and you divide with 2, I'm pretty sure that you get something like 97.5. Then you multiply by 100 and you get your answer. Moving on, we have the differential piecework where employees are paid according to the number of units they've actually produced. So when you're saying the piecework now is differential, we are saying the rates, they will differ depending on the number of units you've produced. So looking at this is an example that I want to explain. We are saying if you produce 1 to 10 units, you get $11 to 20, another range, that will be $50, 21 to 30, that will be $2. Looking at this now, let's say employee A, I want to give you an example. Let's say employee A produced 5 units. Then I want you to pay this employee. How much is he getting in total? Looking at this 5 units, this is the first range only, and the employee has not produced units that exceeds 10 units. So the employee will be paid in total at $1 each. So $1 each by, because 5 units is in the first range. So 5 by $1, that will be how much in total? That will be $5. Then let's say the employee B produced 15 units in total. Then I want you to calculate the pay for employee B. Then I want you to calculate the pay for employee B. Now looking at this now, the problem with students, what they do, they will just say 15 units is on this range, then they will multiply with $50. So that's not correct, because every employee will be paid initially at this rate of $. That's fairness now. So we are saying employee B will look at the first range. Then we'll say the employee completed 10 units in total. So 10 units will be paid at $. Then the extra units, we are saying the units that have exceeded the 10 units, they will qualify for a higher rate, which is the $50. So the extra units, 5 units here, they will be paid at $50. If you want to check this, we have paid this employee for the 15 units in total. So here that will be $10, here that will be $7.50. Then if you sum up this, that will be $17.50. That will be the total pay for employee B, the total pay for employee A. Another example, let's say employee C. Let's say this employee produced 30 units, but 5 units were rejected. Yes, it happens whereby the company will reject some units because the focus here, the employees will be focusing on producing many units so that they will get more salaries, right? So that they will get more money. So the issue here is when you pay employee using the differential piecework, you have to set a standard. Let's say they are producing chairs. You set a standard that if the chair you have produced doesn't meet this standard, it won't be included under the units that will qualify for payment. So now here, if we are saying 5 units were rejected, that means we are going to pay this employee 25 units in total. Now let's pay the employee for 25 units. What you can do, you can try this on your own. You can pause the video and try to calculate on your own, then you match after. Right, so now looking at this now, 25 units, let's pay. Yes, for the first range, the employee produced 10 units in total and will be paid initially at the rate of $. Then we look at the second range, 11 to 28, there are 10 units. That means, and we want to pay this employee 25 units. So that means for the second, he has also completed the 10 units. And on this range, the rate is what? Is $50 per unit. That will be $50 per unit. Then we move on. This is 20 in total. Then the last range here, we are only left with 5 units, so that will pay this employee 25 units. If you sum up, this is 25. So the 5 units will be on this range, which will be paid at $2 each. So here this is $10, here this is $15, here this is 10. Then in total, this employee will be getting $35. Easy stuff. Right, so this is differential piecework. Moving on now, overtime. Now, the concept of overtime, what I want you to understand is, let's say the company have stated that if you work in overtime, you get $10 extra, $10 per hour. So that means if you work 3 hours, you are getting $30 for overtime. But what most people don't understand is overtime is paid at basic and at premium. At basic, we are working with what you have agreed. But now when you are talking about a premium, that's an extra amount that you can get after the overtime, after the basic one. So now looking at this now, overtime, we are saying overtime is paid at basic and at premium. And now, when you are looking at the cost classification, we will say this one is a direct labor cost. Direct labor cost. But this one is an indirect labor cost. So the basic will be classified as direct, the premium will be classified as an indirect. So if the question says overtime is paid at a time and a half. So this is key, at a time and a half. So here we are talking about the basic, here we are talking about what? The premium. So the half is the premium. If they say overtime is paid at a time and a third, even if they say at a third, it's a premium. Is it at a time and a third, at a time and a half, or quarter what? So this one, this will be what? The premium. I hope you follow. So I want you to understand this. Let's say the normal working hours, people, let's say they worked 40 hours. Then let's say the actual hours worked is 50 hours. The 50 hours is the actual, and we are saying the basic rate is $5 per hour. Right, looking at this now, the normal hours is 40, but the actual, they have worked at 50 hours. This means the overtime, 10 hours, it's overtime. Right, I want you to calculate the overtime here, the overtime pay. So overtime pay here, the rate is $5 per hour. So I have said that when you want to pay the employee, you calculate the basic rate. The basic overtime here is 5 per hour by the number of overtime hours, right? By 10 hours. That will be what? $50 here. How about the premium? The premium, let's say they are being paid at a time and a third. So if it's a time and a third, your premium, just say third, is the third of the basic overtime. So it's the third of $50 here. Is the third of $50. That would be your answer. So here, if you are using your calculator, you can use a calculator here too. You get something like 6.6666. You get it. If you round off, that will be $17. Then you sum up these two. Right, so this is the concept of overtime. Idle time. Right. What you have to understand is idle time is paid. Employees, they will be idle during the normal working hours. But this won't be their fault. We can talk about the machine breakdown. Employees are there, but there's machine breakdown, they are not working. They are waiting for the machines to be fixed. We can also talk about shortage of work. If there is shortage of work during the normal working hours, that's not the problem of employees. So we are saying those hours, they are paid. Think of this. Maybe per month you only worked 2 weeks, but the other 2 weeks you didn't work because the company said they want to do some renovations or anything else. So guys, we are not working. That's not your problem. It doesn't mean you get half salary. You still get your full salary. So we are saying when you are idle during the normal working hours, you are paid. Over time, the idle time is paid. So if it's paid, now it's very key to understand this. So we are saying total hours. When we are paying employees, the total hours is what? Is the productive hours plus the idle hours. So the hours you were productive plus the idle hours. So you add the two, then you get the total hours, then you calculate the rates. You calculate the total pay for the employee. Let's say the hours, let's say the productive hours, or they'll say time taken to complete the job. Time taken to complete the work, let's say it's 8 hours. Then they'll say idle time, that's 20%. I want you to understand this example, guys. Time taken to complete this is 20%, and you say the rate is $10 per hour. I sing this example. Then they'll say calculate the total pay for the employee. Right. It seems as if it's very easy, but this question is tricky. So, but if you follow this one, that will be easy for you. So the first key thing to do is to calculate the total hours. So if you are saying time taken to complete, first thing to consider here is the hours given. The hours that you are given, is it the productive hours or is the total hours? If it's the productive, that means we have not yet included the idle hours. But if it's the total hours, it means the idle time has been included already. So let's look at this. Time taken to complete. If it's the time taken to complete is to do something. You being productive here. So that means the 8 hours is the productive hours. So I will say productive is 8 hours here. So this 8 hours is not the total. And the idle time is 20%. So idle 20%. So that means 20% of their time they are doing nothing, which means 80% of the time they are being productive. And we want to pay them at what? 100%. 20% they are idle, 80% they are doing something, and we want to pay them at 100. So, which means the total hours will include the idle, which means it will include the 8 hours plus the hours of being idle, and you pay them at what? The total. You can come up with an equation, right? So total hours here, 100%, right? Productive hours, that's 80%. And 80% here, we are saying they are taking 8 hours to complete and at 80%. How about if you want 100%, which includes the 20%, the hours of idle time, that will be X here. So now, how can you get X now? Look at this. 80%, that's 8 hours. How about 100%? That would be more. You can do your mathematics. Pure common sense here, some that cross multiply, or you can simply take your hours, say if you want more, that will be 100 over 80 here, multiply by 8 hours. So if you multiply, that will be what? You get 10 hours. Then we want to pay this employee, the rate of pay is $10 per hour. So you multiply with the $10 per hour, the total pay for this employee, that will be $100. This will be your answer. Right. Let's move on. There's another concept, time saved. The concept of time saved now, this one, if they give you the normal hours, they won't talk about the overtime, but paying employees a bonus for saving time. If you save time, you get a bonus. We are saying if you save time, you'll be able to produce more than what is expected. That's why they will get bonus. For example, let's say the normal hours here, let's say normal hours is 7 hours. Then they will give you the standard time allowed. Let's say standard time allowed to produce 1 unit. Standard means expected. So if they say the standard time allowed to produce 1 unit, or maybe the standard time is time that we are expecting. Maybe to 1 unit, we need 4 minutes. Standard time is 4 minutes to produce 1 unit. Right, I want you to understand this. Let's say the employee produced 180 units and they are working 7 hours. But here you have been given a standard time that to produce 1 unit, you're expected to take 4 minutes. So what you simply do, the first thing, don't use minutes, convert the minutes to hours, that will be 4 over 60 hours. This is what is expected to produce 1 unit here. I want you to understand the concept of saving time. Then you use what is expected, because standard means expected. So if they are saying employee produced 180, we want to see with what was set as a standard, that 4 minutes you should be able to produce 1 unit. So if this employee produced 180 units, how many hours are expected using this equation? You can simply cross multiply x by 1, x here, 4 over 60 by 180. So if you do the number crunching, that will be 3 here, that will be 12 hours. So we are saying expected hours, but this concept, we are not talking about overtime. If they are telling you that this is the normal hours and they give you the standard time allowed, it simply means the employee worked 7 hours and was able to produce 180 units. We are seeing here that the 180, according to the standard, they need what? 12 hours. But normal hours, you work what? How many hours? 7. You work 7 hours, but the number of units that you produced, according to what is expected, they need 12 hours, but you were able to produce them within what? 7 hours. Which means you saved the what? The time. You saved how many hours? 5 hours. If they say that we are paying you a bonus for saving time, so you simply multiply with the rate. So for example, they will say we are paying a bonus. Maybe the bonus is 60% of time saved. Then they will say the rate here, that will be $5 per hour. Like this. So that means if they are saying the bonus you are getting is 60% of time saved, they are simply saying we are not paying you a bonus of 100% for the time that you have saved. So, but they are saying the bonus here is 60% of the time that you have saved, which is 5 hours. Then we multiply with the rate per hour of $5 per hour. And that bonus, that will be what? 25, but this should be $15. That's the concept of time saved. Now, the last thing on accounting for labor is the ratios, is the efficiency ratio. So, when we are talking about the ratios, when we are talking about efficiency, we are simply comparing the standard hours versus the actual hours times 100. But the reason why most people find it difficult to get this one right is because of the standard hours. The standard hours, it's likely that you will not be given the standard hours, but you have to flex the value, where we say standard hours per unit multiplied by the actual production units. So mostly we talk about the standard hours when you're doing standard costing. So now here we also have the capacity ratio, where we say actual hours over budgeted hours multiplied by 100. And we have the production volume ratio, where we say standard hours over budgeted hours times 100. You know all these formulas, they will help you, because you can be asked about the capacity or production or efficiency ratio. So guys, this is all about the accounting for labor. Thank you very much for your time. See you in the next lecture.